on dialysis.
Oh.
Well, during that time, I had heard from a girlfriend of mine that I met her right after 8th grade, and we were always really special friends. We always said that her mother liked me best and my mother liked her best because I loved to cook, and her mom was a chef and loved to teach me how to cook, and she didn't want to know that. And she loved to clean and I didn't. And my mom really liked her to come visit because she couldn't help herself but clean things. So when I went away to college, she had married actually the first guy I ever dated. And he, during that time, it was in the late 60s. And during that time, if you were of draft age and had a high draft number, you were going to be going to Vietnam. And that was the reason she got married, was because her fiance got drafted. And so they got married, and her mother was furious with her because she said that was just the wrong thing to do. So she kicked her out. So she went to my parents, and mom said, sure, you can stay here. Mom was thrilled.
Yeah.
Because she kept the house spick and span, and it was just great when I was away to college. And
wow.
It was really neat. She ended up, we ended up just staying really close at that time. And then there came a time when she just disappeared. And I didn't know why. I didn't find out till years later that it had to do with her husband having PTSD and it not being safe for her and her children to live in the same place where you even know where they were.
Wow.
So she disappeared. She actually disappeared. And she was brilliant with computers back before anybody was doing computers. She was really, really good at that. And her daughter, who was going to go to Cal State Berkeley, and they lived very far away from there. So she said, as long as she was coming to California, she was going to see if she could track me down. So she started searching for me and discovered my publisher, because I had been writing college textbooks at the time, and contacted them, and they contacted me and said, if you want to get a hold of her, this is her contact information.
Oh, gosh.
So after all these years, and so we had arranged for her to come to my house to visit when she was there, but that was when my husband was in the hospital, and then on his way home broke his hip. And so I'm sitting there, actually, I think it was when he was in surgery, and she came walking into the hospital room. And I said, how in the world did you find me? And she said, well, I went to the heart hospital because you said he had a heart problem, and they all knew him there. But they said that he'd been discharged and that he was over here because of his hip, which with HIPAA, nobody should have said that, but
right.
It was one of those things that had happened, and I was grateful it did. And so she ended up staying with me, which I didn't, neither one of us would have anticipated at all. But my husband's son was there with us, and he said, why don't you and your friend go out to dinner? Because I know that you've been at the hospital with his dad for a couple of weeks at that point. And so we did, and it was so good. It was just like we had never left each other, that we were all still friends. And I said, why don't you spend the night? I've got plenty of room at my house. And she did. And one night turned into two. And finally, I said, if you stayed here, you'd be a whole lot closer to your daughter, so you could visit her and she could visit you whenever you want to while she's in school. And so she said yes. And she moved in with me. And she was such a blessing, because she loved Jacques like I did, and she helped me take care of him, did all the stuff that I would do, and they laughed together and had such a good time. And it was so amazing to have her there. And then she stayed a couple of months after he died, and until her daughter graduated from the graduate program she was in, and then she left. But we've been able to stay in touch since then.
Now,
but it was just such a miracle.
Now, that is not a coincidence. How does the universe make the timing of these things happen? You had all these other people that were kind of fading away, and then this beautiful angel person steps in right at the right time.
Yeah,
that is just
she's phenomenal. The universe knows,
just amazing. Oh, I love that. I love that. Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, she was wonderful. And she convinced me that I needed to sell my house and move someplace else for a few reasons. One of them was it was a big house and it had a pool, and I didn't need to live by myself in this great big place.